Yesterday,
I went on a farmer's rally.
You wore a Barber jacket.
It was green and it kept the rain off, and it's what we wear in the countryside. It was fantastic.
Well, let me
I've had it years.
You might have had it for years. The Daily Mail today reporting that the Barber coat, with its famed olive green wax coat design, is allegedly finding a new group of fans, Richard Tice, the far right. That's according to the Bleeding Woke Brigade, who say the traditional coat is fast becoming a new overt symbol for the right after thousands of farmers protesting against dreary Starmer the farmer harmer.
Starmer the farmer harmer.
Many of those at the rally appear to be sporting a Barber, which can retail for anything from £300 to £1,200.
Absolutely.
So was yours wax or padded? Because I've got both the ones with sleeves off as well.
You've got a bit of each, have you? All I can say is that in which case they're all Reform supporters, because they were very friendly, delighted to see us there. Nigel was there, broadcasting, I was there, all our 5 MPs were there, and it was a hugely, hugely important moment. And what other demonstration, rally, protest, if you want to call it, where one of the speakers calls for a minute's silence for those who've fallen, and you could hear a pin drop amongst however many tens of thousands of people
makes a difference from what we've seen marching in the last few weeks.
And by the way, when everybody left Whitehall, the streets were cleaner than when we arrived.
You see, honestly, when you think of all those unwashed students with their flags and their protests and all the abuse... Oh, don't get me on those idiots. They need to be locked up. Anyway,
it was a great event.
I'm a massive supporter of it. I think it is. And do you know why I was really pleased that we've talked about it so much this week on Talk, is that when you hear a government saying, we're going to tax, and I'm being straight here, we're going to tax farmers with £1 million properties, I get that many people will go, yeah. But the fact of the matter is, and even I didn't really know this before Monday, the average farmer will only take between 1% and 2% as a salary from the value of the farm. So if you have a farm worth £1 million, you're not taking any more than 20 grand a year, which is below the national minimum wage. So this obsession that the Labour Party seems to have with attacking, I wanted your view on this. What I keep saying is the bedrock of our society, pensioners, you know, veterans who are sleeping rough but migrants aren't, and now farmers, it's ideological. Madness.
No, it's ideological, deep socialism. That's what it is. They think that pensioners don't vote for them, so they can attack them. By the way, announced today that Labour now accept 100,000 extra pensioners will basically go into poverty because of that tax.
Just had the leader of Silver Voices, which is a voice for pensioners. It really upsets me, and people get rid of... They go... He explained that hundreds of thousands of pensioners are emailing him saying that they're wearing winter coats and gloves indoors during the day. Richard, I don't care if people think I'm outrageous. How does that work, as I said earlier? How does that work when... And also defence cuts, we'll talk about it. How does that work when we're still sending foreign aid to India and China, mate? It's fundamentally wrong.
It actually doesn't work unless you are ideologically just focused on causing harm to those who you don't care about. So they don't care about the pensioners. Why? They don't care about farmers.
They wouldn't be here without pensioners. This country wouldn't be where it is without pensioners.
But because they perceive that pensioners don't vote for Labour Party...
Farmers provide the food that the Labour Party eats.
They've actually got the wisdom that they've paid tax all the way through, and they realise that actually the place doesn't work. So there's that. Farmers provide the food, but they don't understand that, and they've just got all the numbers completely and utterly wrong. And it's now confirmed that actually the National Farmers Union numbers of about 75% of farms being affected, and they're a government that wants to sort of get lots of growth back into the economy. Well, you don't get growth when farmers, amongst many others, are cancelling investment projects. I know one farmer who's cancelled £1 million strawberry growing expansion plan. He's binned that. I know another farmer who's binned a £300,000 equipment purchase. So this is going on all over, and I heard loads more yesterday of such things, because what's the point of investing if actually the more you invest, the more valuable your business, then the more the government is going to tax. It's insanity. It's
interesting to me that, I mean, I was told this today. Mike and I were talking about this on plane, right? So Starmer in Brazil, 15th trip in 22 days.
Is that the never hear Keir?
No, so two-tier never hear, Keir, free gear, Keir, the farmer harmer.
The farmer harmer.
I'd like to say
he was the granny harmer, now he's the farmer harmer.
Yes, now people get upset when I say this. Doesn't seem to want to be at home, does he?
He doesn't. So he wasn't in Prime Minister's questions today.
Well, I mean, either in the House of Commons or at home. But that's just my opinion. But here's what I don't get. He stands over there at the G20. I know he has to do this sort of stuff. And he says, the most important thing is for you all to realise this is only going to affect 500 farms. You've got the head of the NFU saying it's 75% of small commercial farms. Today, Mike Graham was reading an article that said that the government have admitted today or yesterday that they got their judgment of how they size a farm wrong, that they mistook hectares for acres. Is that... No, literally. And there's 2.3 acres in a hectare. I just wonder, and you know, people say to me, oh, you're becoming a voice piece for reform. No, I'm not, but your party talks sense. I don't understand. It breaks my heart. I don't have my parents. If I thought my parents, Richard, tonight were sitting in a house with their coat and gloves on, I would do anything to make them warm. It breaks my heart, I'm sorry.
But the reality is there's only 3 actual farming MPs in the House of Commons, one of whom, Rupert Lowe, is obviously a Reform MP. So we do actually, once again, know what we're talking about. And when he stands up and launches in at the government for their multiple failures on farming and agriculture, they're like reeling as he literally gives them sort of verbal punches throughout his speeches.
That winter fuel cut, the farmers being... I mean, interestingly, and so we had a farmer in yesterday, a beef farmer, and he said to me, what people don't understand is, my farm's £1 million, right? The government want £200,000. To pay that bill, I would have to sell my farm. But if I sell my farm for £1 million and pay £200,000, I'm also paying capital gains tax of 40%. So I'm going to lose 60% of my farm that has been passed down from generation to generation, and I see myself simply as a custodian.
But and you are a custodian of a farm because, you know, it's land, and family farms are absolutely the bedrock. So and people are investing in it, they're growing it, and if you force people every generation to sell their assets, sell the farm, people will stop investing. You don't get the growth. The government basically nicks your money and then wastes it, and that's not how you grow an economy. And we just see it everywhere. If you want to get some growth, like you're seeing in America, then actually you've got to have capital growth.
Have we got the Lee Anderson clip? Because you were grinning like a good man.
I was grinning like a Cheshire cat. It was hysterical.
Tell me you've got it by putting your thumb up or down. Yes, this is earlier on in the House of Commons where one of the 5 Reform MPs, Lee Anderson, formerly of the Tory party, decided to ask about the farmers. And if you are watching, you'll see Richard Tice trying not to wet yourself. It was a great ending. Have a listen to Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just a few weeks ago from that dispatch box, the Minister for Rural Affairs said that he'd been congratulated by a farmer over the introduction of the inheritance tax. Now, I think this farmer must have been a cannabis farmer, because just yesterday we had 10,000 farmers on Whitehall protesting against this madcap decision. So does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that this decision should be thrown in the trash can along with Rachel from Accounts' CV?
Well, Mr Speaker, he talks about CVs. It's good to see the honourable member doing well on his bench, once a Labour councillor, then a Tory MP, and now a Reform Chief Whip. Every time he switches party, he gets a promotion. Mr Speaker, I've already outlined what we've done to support our farmers, and we'll continue to support the farmers, and we'll continue to invest in our public services to get Britain back on track.
I have a soft spot for Angela Rayner, I don't know why, but here's the thing that I would say. Their obsession with the public sector, to me, then means that they are going to destroy anybody who builds a successful business, anybody that's the bedrock of a society that they seemingly don't like. To bloat the public sector, that doesn't create growth, that doesn't create money, it doesn't build a successful Great Britain.
Well, I think it's fair to say that Rachel of Accounts, who was quite grumpy for the rest
Well, she lied on her CV, Rachel Thieves.
She was very grumpy after she'd been called Rachel of Accounts. Which I think is an unsuitable name. She doesn't understand, because she's not an economist, that actually...
I thought she said she was an economist.
No, but it turns out she's not. She was she might have been a teller, she might have been a paperclip girl, she might have been opening the door. I mean, the whole thing is just... But the point is that it's the private sector, it's entrepreneurs, it's small businesses that create growth, that create activity, that employ people, that take the risk, come up with new ideas. It's never the public sector. And that's why you need a more productive, smaller public sector. But we get some new data out today showing that actually the public sector now is some almost 9% less productive than pre-COVID. So we're spending hundreds of billions more after inflation, not before, but after inflation, in the public sector, and yet it's less productive. In other words, you are literally pouring money down that black hole.
When you got to the House of Commons, I know we talked to you the day that you won, and we spoke to the day you got inducted and all that. When I see these, to what I believe to be the most basic and obvious mistakes this government is making, it's money for old rope for you lot, isn't it? Seriously, I mean, you could be sat there with nothing going on. This government in 4 months is giving open goals, I think, to the opposition parties on a daily basis, aren't they?
Well, it is Starmageddon on steroids, and if you've got no growth, we had some figures out earlier this week showing that there was zero growth, then given literally no growth at all, and they're a government that's supposedly pro-growth, you've now got businesses that supported the Labour Party in the election now regretting it, rowing back on that. Across the piece, particularly hospitality, retail, everywhere, they're looking at the impact of these national insurance contributions. I was in 2 GP surgeries in Skegness last Friday afternoon, and they're looking at the increase in their national insurance bills, and they're saying, who are we going to lay off? Who have we got to sack because we can't afford the tens and tens of thousands of extra national insurance contributions because the government's not increasing the rates paid to the GPs. So, and they don't understand that. They think because they've said we'll offset it in hospitals, that deals with it. Well, what about the GP surgeries? What about the care sector?
I don't know whether
provides all of the care.
I don't know whether this government gave any thought to any of this. Today, as if my mouth wasn't already on the floor, because on a daily basis, yesterday, of course, the farmers. Today, 24 hours, Richard, before the 1,000th day of the war in Ukraine. Today we learn initially that these shadow missiles, are allowed to have been given the permission from Ukraine, firstly by the US, then by UK, to be fired deep into Russia. And all of us, you know, Germany seems to be talking about its National Guard, NATO troops as well. A lot of people are saying this is a very, very worrying time. So what does Starmageddon do? Today, John Healey, I'm trying not to lose my voice, he thinks it will be a good day and a good time, having promised in the manifesto that they would hit 2.5 GDP spending on defence, to announce £500 million worth of defence cuts. Ships, drones and helicopters, 14 Chinook, 17 Puma helicopters, 2 tankers, a frigate and 2 amphibious assault ships. Now, when confronted earlier, they said, what? You know, the thing is, these are decommissioned.
Well, look, so
if they're being decommissioned, why don't we send these to Ukraine then, for example? Is that a good idea?
Well, you can't send ships to Ukraine because obviously it's landlocked, basically.
Brilliant. Well, that was a really ridiculous question, Ryan, and I'm going making me ask. You could send the other stuff, you smart Alec, couldn't you?
Look, first of all, yes, you could, but actually, some of these, I mean, the Conservatives, you know, they have got proper egg on their face because...
Yes, starting with Cameron.
The truth is that a lot of these ships were not fit for purpose. They haven't been for years. A Labour MP stood up and said one of the ships they're decommissioning, he was on it as a trainee in 2017. It couldn't be used back then, let alone 7 years later. So, you know, the Tories have got proper egg on face. I stood up and asked the Secretary of State for Defence. I said, I agree, you know, you agree with me that the Ministry of Defence needs reform. He did chuckle. And then he had also agreed with me that actually the reform is needed in the multiple failures of procurement of equipment in the MOD, which has wasted billions of taxpayers' funds.
But not talking you off the point, 500 million to save on defence. Yesterday, 565 million would be saved with the farming inheritance tax. Can you explain to me then where reform would stand on this suggestion of mine? We are giving £13.6 billion this year to foreign aid. Now, I understand the Ukraine thing, and I understand all the people who say you don't know what it's like to live in all these places. Why, Richard Tice, are we giving money to India, to China, to countries who are richer than us, whilst we cut our defence force, whilst we screw our farmers and whilst we screw our pensioners? That's what people want to know, because they don't understand that.
Because our civil service that essentially run the show and present the options to the ministers, they are woke lefties, and they don't really believe in defence, they don't really believe in farmers. And look, the reality is, on the defence point, as I say, some of this kit was useless. I'm particularly worried about the helicopters because it's years before we've got replacements for those helicopters, in particular the Chinooks. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, there is so much waste and, frankly, corruption in large parts of the public sector, including councils, including the abuse of the benefit system. All they've got to do is literally scratch the surface of the waste, and they can, then all of these issues go away. So it's not a case of what they try and do is distort the argument and say, well, how else are you going to pay for more money in the NHS? Well, firstly, the NHS doesn't need more money. It needs to spend what it's currently got properly. And secondly, just get rid of all the corruption, the waste that I talked about in the election when I said you've got to save 5 quid in 100. Actually, I now think you could probably save 8 to 10 quid in 100 and no one would notice the difference. But they're not prepared to do that because they haven't got a business background. They don't know what they're doing. I don't think there's a single member of the cabinet that's ever run a business.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because ideology is what people always talk about with this Labour Party, this sort of belief that, the have-not should be given. I did this yesterday. We got quite an interesting response to it. The Labour mantra has always been, well, you've built a business, you're a pensioner, you've sent your kids to private school, these poor people haven't. We're going to screw you and then they can have some, which I understand to a degree.
No, I don't understand it at all.
Wait a minute. What about the people who worked hard? Not luck, grafted. Why should... There are a lot of people who haven't made it, who are lazy people, who deserve a kick up the backside. So why don't we turn it around and say, why do you expect something for nothing? Why don't you do what other people have done? I'm not saying you're going to be...
But it's very simple. You've got to change the culture in this country.
Yeah, culture's a great word.
To say that actually... working hard's a good thing. Making more money is a good thing. Taking risk is a good thing. Setting up a small business and growing it into a medium and then a big business is a great thing.
Of course
and we should celebrate those people. We should thank them. We should admire them, because if you grow faster as an economy because of all that hard, successful work, guess what? Everybody gets more prosperous because a rising tide lifts all boats.
But that's what I don't understand. Wrong phrase. Obviously, you've got to stop them, not lift them. But this is what I don't understand. This desire to screw small businesses who employ people, who make money, and that permeates down into your economy, that is growth and financial growth as well. No. We're going to screw all those people and we're going to give train drivers 30% pay rises. I mean, it is... And do you know what I find so frustrating, and why I'm sort of delighted that we have reform, and I mean this, I don't care if people don't like that, is that there doesn't seem to be amongst a majority of politicians, and I keep harping back to America, Richard. Last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, 3 now, I watched something on The View with Whoopi Goldberg. She's so traumatised by Trump winning that she wears black now and she won't say his name, right? The fact of the matter is 80+ million Americans went. You can stuff your ideological rubbish where the sun don't shine. I want to know about petrol costs, gas, food costs, and I want the migration thing. So I just wonder whether politicians in the major parties understand the depth of anger there is in this country, because you said it during the election campaign. Something's going to happen here. I don't say that so people go, what do you say? I'm just saying people are hacked off. They're hacked off that they're 6th and 7th best in a country they've paid into. They're hacked off that ideology seems to have sort of superseded common sense. And I believe that people will bite back. I really do.
Well, I think the truth is they're already beginning to. And there's a poll out just yesterday, a relatively small sample. But in Wales, for example, we're now equal or higher, polling first, than the Labour Party.
Really?
So
who have been in power for 25 years.
Who've been in power for 20 years. So, things are changing, and people are saying, look, in a sense, you don't have to agree with everything from a political party. No. In fact, life would be boring if we did all agree with everything. So, but the point is, people are saying, well, who's got the ideas, who's got some radically different ideas that's actually going to change the course, and who's got a track record of knowing what they talk about, who've actually done some stuff, been around the block, made some mistakes.
If reform became the government, what job would you want in government?
Well,
Home Secretary?
I'm not going to answer that, but I can do a number of jobs. The point is that we're competent. We know what we're doing. Yeah. We know how to cut wasteful spending, and this is about actually it's the same agenda as what you're now going to see in the United States.
Yeah, completely
which is
agree.
Smaller state, lower energy costs, because drill baby drill, we need to be using our energy treasure from under our feet, offshore and onshore. That means you get more competitive. Get rid of daft regulations. This stuff's not that difficult.
But that's what I mean.
And off you go.
It's not rocket science. So we've told you that barber jackets are fast becoming a new covert signal of the far right, so you're a fascist. Have you seen the new Jaguar advert today?
Oh, my golly. What is that?
Well, no longer like that. It looks like a transgender dinner party invite, doesn't it? A lot of people in very strange outfits. Apparently it's all about brand now. It's not about the car. But I leave you with a question that will prove if you are a man of the people. Have you ever been to Lidl, the supermarket? supermarket?
I have actually, yes.
In the middle aisle. I mean, I only went once with my daughter. I never go back again. But no,
Did
but
you
in the
not
middle,
enjoy it?
No, it's horrific. But in the middle, I'm joking. In the middle aisle, you can buy like a speedboat, a canoe. You know, like a cement mixer, flamethrowers.
Literally.
And apparently grown men now go to Lidl to buy boys' toys whilst the other people are shopping.
I promise you, I've got a confession to make.
My God.
I went to another store called Costco, which is a fantastic warehouse.
Like Northern and Peacock, you can buy 1,000 toilet rolls.
I went there to buy some cheese and some meat, and I came out with a canoe.
Why did you buy a canoe?
Well, because the kids were quite keen on a canoe. I wasn't expecting to see a canoe, but we had a sort of a river nearby, and I thought, whoa, this might be quite good entertainment.
Sorry, how did you get the canoe home? Did you tie it to the top of the car? What did you do?
No, I said...
You've got a 4x4, you right-wing fascist.
I walked into that, didn't I?
Yeah.
No, I said, can you deliver it? And yes, they could deliver it, so that was fantastic.
Richard Tice,
later,
Deputy Leader of Reform, went to Costco to buy some cheese and ham and came out with a canoe.
It's true.
I love you, man. I love it. Listen, as ever, thank you so much for coming on. Always good to have you on. And on a serious note, the Reform Party does talk, so very much like this station, it's common sense, isn't it?
Common sense.